Have you heard the latest about the Phoenix Suns? With no traditional point guard on their roster for the 2023-24 season, they're set to embark on a journey that will test their offensive creativity. Let's dive into how this star-studded trio plans to navigate the absence of a true floor general. Well, it seems like the Phoenix Suns are taking a page out of the Houston Rockets playbook, but this time they're going without a point guard. Remember when the Rockets traded away Clint Capella and went all in on the small ball strategy? That was something, right? Now the Suns have shipped off Chris Paul and said goodbye to Cameron Payne. So what's their game plan? Well, last season, there were 69 players who were pretty generous with assists, dishing them out on at least 20% of their individual possessions. But guess what? The Suns don't have a single one of those players on their roster. Talk about being unique. They did pick up Jordan Goodwin in the Bradley Beal trade, and he had a decent assist ratio last season. But let's not forget, he's relatively untested in the NBA. We're not sure if he's ready to be a playoff rotation regular. The Suns do have some serious scoring talent on their side, with 3 guys who are set to cash in big time over the next 3 years. But here's the million-dollar question, or should I say $444 million. How will they make it work without a true point guard? It's going to be interesting to see how these 3 stars gel on the court. So it looks like the Phoenix Suns are planning to have Bradley Beal run the show as their point guard in the starting lineup, even though he didn't do that much last season. But here's the twist. Beal has been dishing out more assists lately, with his best assist ratios in the last 2 seasons. Plus, he's pretty handy in the pick-and-roll game. On the other hand, we've got Devin Booker, who's all about scoring but doesn't mind sharing playmaking duties. It'll be interesting to see how these 2 handle things without a traditional point guard. No doubt, the Phoenix Suns don't necessarily need their offense to start from the top of the key. You know who's pretty lethal down in the post? Kevin Durant. I mean, over the past 3 seasons, he's been shooting a scorching 58% on post-ups, which is quite impressive. Now, I have to admit that it's not a massive sample size because Durant doesn't post up all that often, and when he does, he often draws a double team. But whether he's taking the shot himself or making a slick pass, Durant down in the post can be a recipe for some high-quality offense, and it doesn't necessarily rely on having a traditional point guard. When you've got a trio of stars like the Suns do, opponents might resort to switching defenses to try and contain them. But here's the thing. Finding 3 capable defenders, let alone 3 with size, isn't something every team can boast about. Now, when you switch defenses, it tends to lead to more one-on-one situations, and that's where Kevin Durant shines. Over the last 3 seasons, his teams have been scoring a tidy 1.11 points per direct isolation possession, ranking him 7th among 61 players with at least 500 direct isolations during that time frame. It's like he's a one-man wrecking crew when it comes to isolation plays. On the flip side, Devin Booker and Bradley Beal, while incredibly talented, don't have quite the same isolation prowess. Their efficiency in isolation situations ranks in the bottom half of that list. So it'll be interesting to see how the Suns navigate these one-on-one matchups with their star-studded lineup. When it comes to creating offensive havoc, having shooters who are willing to set screens can be a game changer. Take Bradley Beal, for instance. He's been setting more screens both on and off the ball per 100 possessions compared to Devin Booker over the last few seasons. And get this, the Wizards even used him as a screener in after-timeout plays last season. Here's how it worked. Beal would kick things off by setting a pin-down screen for a shooter like Corey Kispert. Then he'd pivot and set a back screen for a big man like Kristaps Porzingis. Beal's defender had a tough decision to make because he didn't want to leave Beal, but if he did and Porzingis wasn't open on the cut, Kispert would step in and screen for Beal. That would set Beal up for a handoff from the big man at the high post. Now imagine the Suns running a similar play with Kevin Durant in Porzingis' spot. Could work like a charm, with Durant either getting a good post position on the right block or flowing into the handoff if he's not open initially. It's all about creating options and keeping the defense on its toes. Transition play could be an area where the Phoenix Suns feel the absence of a traditional point guard. Last season, they found themselves at the bottom of the league in the percentage of possessions, 13.4%, that they ran in transition. And they played at the slowest pace, 97.8 possessions per 48 minutes, when Chris Paul was on the court. Now, to give Paul his due, he was always on the lookout for transition opportunities. He averaged 5.4 pass-ahead passes per game, ranking 8th in the league. But when you look at the numbers for Bradley Beal, 2.1, Devin Booker, 1.6, and Kevin Durant, 3.0, they all fall short of Cameron Payne's pass-ahead rate, 3.2. And remember, Payne was only playing about 20 minutes a night. So it's quite likely that the Suns will continue to rank last in transition percentage for another season, and that might impact their overall offensive efficiency. Transition plays can be a quick way to score, and without a true point guard, they might miss out on some easy baskets. Well, here's a twist for you. Sometimes 2 is indeed greater than 3. When you look at Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant, they're all pretty skilled when it comes to shooting off the dribble. But here's the catch. They're way more efficient inside the arc than they are beyond it. Last season, among 85 players who attempted at least 75 pull-up two-pointers and 75 pull-up three-pointers, Durant, Booker, and Beal had some of the largest differentials between their shooting percentages on pull-up twos and pull-up threes. Durant had the 3rd largest differential, Booker the 6th, and Beal the 13th. In simpler terms, they're just better at those mid-range shots. But let's not get too carried away with the math here. It's not necessarily that they shoot poorly from beyond the arc, although Booker and Beal did fall below the league average on pull-up threes. The point is that these guys are more inclined to take two-point shots. They're not your typical long-range bombers. In fact, each of them took less than 30% of their shots from beyond the three-point line, while the league average for three-point attempts was nearly 39%. Now, you've got Eric Gordon in the mix, who's quite the opposite with 61% of his shots coming from three-point territory over the last 7 seasons. But if the Suns' big three continues to shoot at ratios well below the league average, they might have to battle the math a bit. Nonetheless, they've got the potential to boast one of the best offenses in the league.